My name is Matthew Todd, and welcome to Inside the Scale Up. This is the podcast for founders and executives in tech looking to make an impact and learn from their peers within the tech business. We lift the lid on tech businesses, interviewing leaders and following their journey from startup to scale up and beyond, covering everything from developing product market fit, funding and fundraising models to value proposition structure and growth marketing. We learn from their journey so that you can understand how they really work, the failures, the successes, the lessons along the way, so that you can take their learnings and apply them within your own startup or scale up and join the ever-growing list of high-growth UK SaaS businesses. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Pleased today to be joined by Pedro Gancho, CEO of a company called Inlife. Great to have you on the podcast today.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Great to talk to you today and looking forward to the conversation, looking forward to finding out a bit more about your journey, your background as well. But yeah, to kick things off, do you want to give people a brief intro into who you are and what it is that you do at Inlife?
Sure. So Inlife started back in 2015, like when officially. And it started from a concept called the housing trip. So basically, I was living I was doing my master. I'm a business guy, so I was doing master in business administration, and I was living in Canada at the time. And I had this idea, and it was a simple concept called the housing trip, which was like the best of both worlds in between, like when you were looking for a new flat to move into in a new city. So basically, at the time, you had two options: either you would go by yourself, and a lot of people were still doing that, so they would move to the new city, find a hotel or for a few days, and they were trying to reach out directly to landlords, like through those open websites in these pages, and then to try to make visits and find out about the properties bit by themselves or with the help of some like real estate, like broker, like traditional agencies in the spot. And the other way, the other side, which was getting like started but already like more famous, was like you could book a flat right away online and pay for it. Like you pay up front and you only get the landlord the contact details after you're paying either the first month rent plus a booking fee or the whole stay. So these were the two models at the time, and this housing trip came like in the middle, bringing the best of both worlds. And it was basically, so you would register at a website that I've created at the time, like very simple. It was like it was a form basically where you would say, okay, I have a 800 euro budget and I want to a room with a balcony near this university. This was very focused on international students. It was our main target in the beginning. So after this, as soon as you arrived, it started in Lisbon. So only in Lisbon, Portugal. So you would come to the city, and there was an operator who would take you by car to visit three properties, which were like the most similar to what you've presented in your previous in your form, in your details. So this was obviously logistically very demanding because you were basically coordinating in between three different landlords. Because the operator, you were sold as a trip, so in a very short amount of time, and with the help of a professional operator, you'd get to visit these three places on the spot, ask all the questions you want, and get all the support. And this would become like a social event also, because you would be combined in a group in the same car or several cars with other students. Yeah. From the same
multiple
school,
students potentially interested in the same property then.
Exactly. And they would all arrive the same week. That's also important because according to the university schedule, because specific universities would start like in specific dates. So everybody from that school would arrive that week. So it was pretty easy to manage and to get them together. You would pay for this trip too. You would pay at the time 25 euros to get access to this tour. And then if you are happy with the flats one of the flats that you visited, you'd pay like the booking fee to get that one. That's how it started basically.
Sounds pretty tricky. I can definitely see the need for it, but it certainly doesn't sound very scalable in terms of logistics of getting people together, but also sounds very seasonal in terms of focusing on universities when they have their intake.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, because like it was happening. The academic calendar here, it's like 2 semesters. It was starting September and then February. So
Yeah.
the intakes for and the rest of the year, it would basically be finding properties. But was like no investment concept. So it was
Yeah.
basically the only thing I did was a website in Wix. I was actually like I finished my master's and I started working for a consulting company that year just to get some money, etc. But I was doing it like I was doing the website as a like after like my job, and
Yeah.
I was like there for a very few times. So I was there for 10 months, and then I gave my resignation letter right away because I was having so much interest in this service because I zero marketing, also no need for so zero investment. So
Yeah.
I just basically prepared a presentation to send to the schools and to a few schools like business schools in Lisbon. They sent it out to their incoming students, and I started receiving like a lot of requests from people and
Nice.
serious requests like, oh, I arrive on the 31st of August and I come with my with my parents. Can they also join? And they come in the
Yeah.
vehicle. So I had to design a price for if you would bring someone else that was not looking for accommodation but was occupying a place in the vehicle. So it basically started then. Okay, I saw this was just basically a concept, like it raised interest, and that's where it all started. And I started prospecting and getting. Then I needed the properties. So first, I had zero properties at the time,
Yeah.
but then I had a lot of registration. So I basically stopped what I was. I gave my resignation letter and I started full time, like finding the properties, like to lease for this type of students because they have to be furnished flats, has to be well connected to transportation. So a few specific stuff, and then
Yeah.
that's how it started, like in 2015.
Yeah. Nice. That's really interesting. How many? I'm curious. And we mentioned that model wasn't terribly scalable, but it sounds like there
Mhm.
were some pretty decent numbers, behind it still to allow you to quit your job. And how many, viewings, how many students, how many trips were you running then at the peak of that
Yeah,
model?
so basically what we were running like each trip up until 20 students per trip. So it was like 4 to 5 cars with
Yeah.
so I was basically asking friends or colleagues to help me with this because I also didn't expect it like to grow so much. So I was having a lot of people there, and like every day we would run like 2 to 3 housing trips. So
Okay.
some days we could have like 40 to 50 people joining the housing trips. Like obviously it was like very seasonal. It was like,
Yeah.
let's say 5 weeks of peak, then it immediately started decreasing, and then we stopped doing that. So we would close registrations because then I started doing other stuff. It was only me. It was
Yeah.
myself alone. Like fine. And then I had the help of other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but it was very interesting because then it allowed me and it opened me doors for one of my businesses today, which is the property management business. Because then I started like most of my days out when it was not like housing trip season were passed like talking to brokers, like real estate agencies, landlords, big property like portfolio
Yeah.
managers and property owners. And so I got access to several interesting properties and launched a different model like of long-term leases that we were covered the rent for them, furnished the flats. But this with time, but the beginning was there because I found the need and I discovered this pain point because a lot of people like they didn't have the time to manage these flats. They had these big units like 200 square meter, 250 square meters, which is very common in Lisbon. That becomes like an 8 bedroom co-living flat, 9 bedroom, 10 bedroom, 11 bedroom, and
Yeah.
it requires some expertise and some degree of knowledge to manage it. And it was a line of business that we developed and that allowed us to fund the tech company that we're actually here to talk about, and that kind of yeah.
Sounds like quite a journey then. So you ended
Yeah.
up, finding a problem that you could solve, with that quite manual thing that then opened up the network and the opportunity to a property business that is now funding the tech. Yeah, sounds like quite a complementary kind of
Exactly. Yeah,
building
yeah,
set of businesses and opportunity and business skills as well, I guess.
yeah. So basically the dots started connecting, and they until what the model is today, and what allowed us to scale if I can jump right into that. It was basically shifting this housing trip model to a live video call model. So basically it was a decision like this. It was obviously very hard to scale, right? You need a lot of people, you need a lot of cars, equipment. Like we even started doing it in 2 other cities in Portugal. So we had people in Oporto, people in Coimbra. So doing this, but like obviously I always knew this was not a scalable model. And the moment I decided, okay, I want to make this like an international company, international business, I need to shift the model here and find a way to make it work for everybody anywhere else in the world. But the challenge here is like, we don't want to become as any other platform that they just present pictures, descriptions, or recorded videos, and then you need to pay for the flat. So that way you are just creating a platform like a few others that were already in the market. So like, how do you stop sending people to the flats and making the visit yourself and make it a scalable model without losing this personalized touch that you have, and that's what raised so much interest from the beginning. So basically we shifted to not recorded calls but live video calls. At the first moment, they were paid video calls. So if you could, we developed the first version of our tech platform. So where you could pay online, send booking requests, and you always had 2 actions that you could make on the platform. So send a booking request or send a visit request. So each property would have these 2. So because for some people, they were happy enough with the pictures, they would just wanted to get it straight away. So we also didn't want to like put a constraint for those guys. So we had these 2 services. So you could ask for a visit or ask to book it right away. And the first version, you would pay for a video call, and we would send someone there with the phone for quality assurance. But obviously the landlord had to go there the same to open the door for our agent, etc. So this was like a transition period until we reached what we actually wanted, which was a totally open model where landlord and tenant are talking like on inside our platform. And that's so it became like it's a free to nowadays, like all you can request for a live video call for free. And we made it like a powerful sales tool for the landlords too. So every landlord, property manager can present their properties like in a webinar. So you basically choose a visit calendar. Okay, so I make visits on Fridays from 3 to 4 p.m. And then you have this co-living building, this residence, this 6-bedroom shared flat. You have a few units still to sell. And in like 10 to 15 minutes, you can show the property to a lot of people, one that's in Japan, another one in Brazil, another one in the US, another one in London, and you are basically in Madrid selling the room. So it becomes a very powerful sales tool for the landlords. And everything happens inside our platform. Calls are recorded. And what we do on our sales team is basically upon request, if requested, we join the call, one of our operators, for translation purposes, because we have some landlords in Italy, in Spain, in Portugal that they do not speak good English. They're not comfortable speaking. So it would be like a challenge presenting a property to a guy that's in Japan or in Australia or somewhere else. So it's basically the thing that we do is when needed, like our operators join. But the landlords have like a how-to guide also, because we want to keep the quality of the visits. And what is very interesting is not only like the verification of the premises of the real estate itself, because it's an unedited video. It's like as it is. And but the most like very, very important thing is the social part that it comes, because we're talking about shared flats, co-living units, like a lot of times, and people actually want this to know the community, to see like who they'll be sharing the spaces with. Is it other international students? Is it locals? Are they workers, interns? Are they what type? So this it's very powerful, because in 15 minutes or less you can get a lot of local information on the spot about everything that will happen, and you'll have like all the information you need to be 100% confident when you go to send the booking request right away after the call.
I see. So then when that makes a lot of sense, I see it's how quite a powerful model. So you're kind of solving the location problems for the people looking for accommodation, but then from the landlord's perspective, you are giving them a pretty powerful sales tool as well that they can do not one to one, but in a group setting.
Exactly.
So it's time efficient for them, but I guess there's also a bit of kind of scarcity mindset as well then for the students booking the accommodation. If they can see that, oh, they know there are other people looking at this property as well, they're motivated to make a decision, I assume.
Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, it happens because if there's only like two units available in an apartment, or even one, if it's a studio unit that's in it, there's four guys like in the call, it definitely raises this sense of, okay, let me, as soon as this call ends, I'll send an instant booking request so that I can get accepted right away. So it's definitely,
Yeah.
yeah.
So is that something you see pretty common then, the actual time from call to making a booking request? Is that pretty short?
Yeah, it's short. As soon as it's usually like more than 90% the cases, it's the same day.
Okay.
The same day it
Wow.
happens. The thing is, like, obviously it can work also in the reverse way. So if the property is not well maintained, imagine that you have great pictures, but those were taken like 10 years ago or 8 years ago,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now the premises are actually not looking like they were, or the furniture changed, and it's like it's in a poorer condition, let's say. So basically you
Yeah.
are attracting potential tenants, you are raising interest of prospective tenants. They are scheduling and requesting to visit your property, but then you have a low conversion rate because actually they were the interest that they had is in a different type of decoration, a different type of like they wanted something
Yeah, yeah.
modern, they wanted something more. So obviously it can work in the reverse way also for the landlord. But yeah, that's obviously it needs to be, that's the goal of our platform, is for maximum transparency.
Yeah, you get a real honest perspective of what it looks like because it's live video. So you see for what
Exactly,
it
for
is.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When it came to launching that and then, growing the number of landlords as well as people looking for accommodation, how did you approach that? Did you naturally still have, more people looking for accommodation than landlords? Did you have to work on both sides to build them up? How did that look like in terms of initial expansion?
So something we found out very early in our business is that this is a business model that works in big cities. So it needs to be cities where there's a lot of companies, a lot of expats, a lot of mobility, like a lot of universities, a lot of international
Yeah.
students. So this is where our model is more, our platform is more needed for both sides, because in very small cities, for example, landlords feel that they do not need us because they can easily, like, because the offer is much more fragmented. So there you have very small landlords that have like an easy time managing them, managing visits. So they have like very few units, and they
Yeah.
feel like they don't need to pay a commission to a professional platform to deal with this, and they prefer to do it like the old school way. They'll do it like just putting the ad on a free platform, or just on Facebook groups, whatever, that
Yeah.
in talking directly to the tenant doesn't involve a lot of time. So getting to your question, just to explain that we purposely chose cities where we knew like this. There's a lot of supply, organized supply, because there are two rules for our platform. One on the supply side, on the offer, which is furnished flats. So you can only find furnished flats like ready to move in on our
Yeah.
platform. And the other rule is like minimum stays of 1 month for tenants. So
Okay.
even cities, if cities with a lot of touristic activity are not like, because our goal is not going for the short term stays, the weekend stays, the weekend getaways. It's minimum stays of 1 month. So we always take these two factors into consideration when we choose a new city where we want to open.
Yeah.
And then it's usually in these cities, like all the cities we are in, we have like there's the market has typically more demand than supply. And as you know, it's very hard to find a good accommodation, or to find
Yeah.
accommodation in the big European cities and capitals. So this is there's always supply constraints, and there's always a lot of people wanting to move to live in the city center. So for sure, like there's always like a supply, more the supply issue. So most of our teams, like sales teams, like as in a purely sales way, like sales approach, are working on with landlords. So getting working on the value proposition for property managers and for landlords, because even small landlords in big cities are interested in in our service, because it's much harder for them than in a small city to go there for visits, to get a lot of calls, and then they need to go there because someone else is requesting something. So they value their time in a different way, so yeah, we work not only with the B2B, like student residences, co-living, and the big portfolios of property managers, but also with the small landlord that has like this 2-bedroom apartment in the city. So and we can work with small bedrooms in shared flats, premium studios. So we don't make constraints on the supply side. Then the challenge then is like, we don't require also the exclusivity deals, so the landlord can list at Inlife, so at in Inlife, and can be listed also in other platforms. Then the challenge is who sends the tenants first, right? The booking request, because most of these landlords, basically, they are interested in having like high occupancy rates at the best possible prices. So they want to have a lot of visibility, and then they will accept, like, the faster you send them the tenant. So this is also the challenge. We obviously we have a very, very strong value proposition on the tenant side, because they see the value in it. It's a unique service in Europe, and it's a totally different way of approaching it, and they see the value. It's very self-explanatory. But for the landlords, of course, for them it's a bit. They just want to get the tenants as fast as possible, with or without the video call. So it's not a for them is like we try to make it the simplest, like in the fastest possible channel. We make it like faster, easier to make these video calls, because we know it's like a time consuming for them. So we try to shorten the process. And product wise, we've been developing a lot of new features and reframing also the whole experience and the journey, so that it's so easy for them, and even the cleaning lady, the current tenant, anybody with a smartphone can easily join the link and show the property, and our guys take care of the other part of the explaining stuff and clarifying doubts.
Yeah, I see. So I can see how on the tenant side, the value is pretty clear and unique and differentiated. But as you say, the landlords are just interested in one thing, which is getting people signed up in the door on a lease, however they can, as quickly as they can. So I can see that you need to provide some clear value adds there, and it sounds like that speed thing definitely plays a part into it. For sure.
And landlords, one of the things they value the most is their time. So if if you manage a 2,000 units, the last thing you want is a process that will require a lot of manual involvement, where you need to take a lot of time changing prices, changing availabilities. So our goal and our product teams work every day to simplify this whole experience. We want it to be indeed, we've done a pretty nice job there. So today is very, very easy to integrate everything. It's very smooth to have, and then you can have all your calendars updated live, bulk updates. So you can change the 10% prices. You can change most stuff, like for a big portfolio, very fast. So our main concern is like their time, because obviously prices will depend on the market. We can't control it. You will change it. Like, obviously it's always on the landlord's responsibility to change prices and availabilities. But our major goal, what we can do, is optimize their time.
I see. And when a tenant does sign up with a landlord, then what's the platform's involvement at that stage? Do you then hand everything over to the landlord, or are you kind of involved during that tenant's stay at the property and extending leases and those kind of things as well, or is it stop earlier
Yeah.
in the process than that?
So basically, standard process would be tenant pays the first month rent to Inlife.
Yeah.
We transfer this amount to the landlord 24 hours after the move-in date. So the tenant has this 24-hour window. So to say if everything is okay. If he presents a complaint that something is wrong, we will hold that payment. And if it goes for customer support, and we start to validate and to analyze this if this is a justified complaint. If it is justified and the reason is and the tenant is right, we give a full refund to the tenant and try to replace the property right away. So this is our code of our promise and even though the tenants depending if they use the visit service or not, but many times they've already visited the property, but something may happen and they ended up with a different condition that they thought they were booking. So we are there for them. We use these rules. After the 24-hour, if everything is okay, we transfer this first month rent to the landlord, and then the future payments. So imagine that it's a 10-month contract. The security deposit and the following payments are done directly to the landlord. What we do is imagine that the tenant defaults or there's this problem, we always advise the landlord to protect himself with the security deposit, the last month rent, so something like that, because this is a very simplified rental process. So no bank guarantors. So it's very this is like this midterm rentals market. It's supposed to be if you want it to be quick and fast, we cannot be waiting for the bank to give permission to become like a grantor or to gather all the paperwork, because sometimes that's the issue, because we're talking about people that come from abroad. They don't have all the documentation prepared for the traditional lease. So we basically, but obviously it raises some concerns on the landlord side. Okay, what if this guy stops paying rent, or if this tenant stops paying rent? So it's also, they have these tools to protect themselves. And also on our website, the tenant, when the booking was accepted and confirmed, they have submitted and they agreed to specific terms and conditions. So the landlord is also protected by those.
I see.
And the service can stop being provided if they are not, because it's basically a contractor agreement. It's a service. Then each landlord basically deals with it like according to his preference and his legal advice, and depending also on his structure. But most landlords treat it as like the same level. It's not a rental agreement, let's say. It's a service contractor agreement. So they are providing the service like hotel, like the hotels, and like it's more on this side. So it also falls into a different category, like to stop the lease or the stop the contract if this is something goes bad. What we do in those cases also support both sides according to the terms and conditions of the platform. Everything is very clear, and if there's even for both sides, if there's a misconduct and one of the parts stops doing what they've committed to, we take action, and we obviously in the what is feasible for us, and we take intervention to solve it as fast as possible. We have a team for that.
Yeah, that sounds really good, and it certainly sounds like there's a very high kind of quality mark that you place on that service. And I can see that by focusing on that mid-term kind of rental model and that model only, it does allow you to put in place those terms and conditions, but also the tools then that are very tailored to that. So it's not like Airbnb where you can stay for a couple of nights if you wanted to, but it's not like a a multi-year thing as well. But that midterm kind of duration and remote model, I guess, all combine to what sounds like a pretty compelling package, but also something that's pretty unique as well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's something that's growing a lot in the last few years, and there's a lot more investment and professional investment in these areas for the co-living, student residence, and providing professional services for mid-term stays and not
Yeah.
only for short-term stays. And we definitely are here to as a prop tech and as the marketplace for this to happen, and we are here to support both sides in making it as transparent as professional. And we know like this market will tend to grow for sure, because people want flexibility and they want ready to move flats in their new cities.
Yeah, I can see how making it professional is definitely a big game changer, and that I can see how the technology can enable that level of professional service. So I guess the question then is what's next for Inlife then? If you've proven out this model, you've got that working pretty well in a few cities, how do you see the expansion going forward internationally?
That's a good question, Matt, because we obviously still have some issues to solve some on at a product level. It's not like at the final stage. I guess it never is
Yeah.
when we're talking about. But this like 2023, this year is still gonna be like a very fast and year for us in terms of product development. We've just launched a new version of the Landlords app. Because we like a native app, and we've just launched a few new features. For example, potential tenants. Now the landlords are able to go inside their dashboard and check tenants that are looking for flats within the budget and in their cities within their budget and location, and they can proactively take action. So in 3 clicks, they can select the tenant they want to offer the property to, select the property, and send them that. So,
nice.
And the tenant is basically receiving a suggestion directly from the landlord. The landlord is almost saying, okay, I'm inviting you to come live here. I think you have the profile. But the landlords obviously have access to information, like there's occupation, age range, first name, and the country of origin, and according to that, like they can, okay, this, I think this profile is exactly what I'm looking for, and I think it would make a good fit for this flat that I have. So for any reason, so the landlord can go there. So this is the new stuff that we're launching, and we're still testing and see how landlords engage with this, but several cool features are coming this year. So it's not that we have the model fully closed and we're just replicating it through in new cities, but we're actively looking for new cities to open. So next month we're opening a few more cities in Spain, like Valencia and Seville, and we are now looking for the Central Europe market, also the Netherlands, Germany, and London too. London is on this side, on the Western Europe. So London will be the also one of our next bets, either 2023 or 2024. So we are the thing here on this, like this is a city per city approach. It's not a country approach. It's not like, okay, I'm launching in France, and okay, let's do marketing for France. No, you choose a city. You basically, people don't look for rent a room in England. They look for a rent a room in London or in Manchester or in Bristol. So it's a city per city approach. And obviously, as I've mentioned before, like there is a specific criteria, which nowadays we already have a pretty solid idea of what we're looking for when we decide to go into a city. And obviously, it's always an investment, because in the first months. In the first month, we're looking for supply. We create the teams to support landlords to enroll new properties. We need to bring in the offer, and then only after a few months we open the map to the public and we start marketing to the prospective tenants. So there's always this window that we need to expect and be prepared financially speaking for this, that we will need to have a team working at that country to support landlords there, and we're not going to be selling or in that market for the first few months until we have like at least a good, because we always want to open a map with a solid diversity of options. So we don't want to open for a good entrance. So we want the tenant to go to our platform and to the city and see like a bunch of options with different price ranges, bigger and smaller flats, different locations, etc. So we always want to make sure before we start the marketing endeavor and the marketing efforts for the tenant side, we need to make sure that we have good portfolio on the supply side.
That makes sense. I think for any marketplace business, you need to make sure when people are looking for service, no matter what that service is, if there's no options for them to choose from that they feel are a good fit, or it's just a very short set of results, people are going to come, turn away from it and not use it again pretty quickly, aren't they?
For sure. Yeah. There's no second chance for a first impression.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I think that's super interesting in terms of how you've been able to carve out specific kind of features that suit both the tenants and the landlords, solving a number of those problems and challenges that you saw. But for any other founders kind of listening to this episode, maybe they're developing a marketplace type SaaS platform or thinking of some kind of marketplace type platform, what advice would you give them? What lessons from your journey, do you think are worth them listening to?
Okay. One important one is that we tend always to be very optimistic. So it's rarely going to happen within the time frame that you expect. So we always think it's going to be. It then obviously depends on the situation of these founders, if they are still thinking about launching, or if they already have like some traction, they want to internationalize. So specifically about new markets, launching new markets, like going to a new city, etc. We think the model is already proven at home, but it always takes longer than we expect to prove it like in a new city. It's not because you've proven the model in your market doesn't mean that it's going to happen like right away in the new market, because it's cultural. It's a lot of brand awareness, and when we're talking B2C, as it's in our case, it's more challenging, of course. But for who's launching, the thing is like, I mean, you need to feel like it's the right time. And obviously, like if you're thinking, is this the right model? Is this the right time? I'm always in favor of testing things. Obviously, it's a question if you want to test like a space rocket, it's something expensive to test, or like it depends on what we're talking about, of course. And in my case, as I've told you, like I started testing this housing trip because it was very low capital, and it allowed me to connect a lot of dots and bring it to what it is today. But I'm always in favor of doing something, like go for it, don't overthink. So my main advice would be this: like if you feel it makes sense, it's just start with a very raw version, talk to people, put it out there, and then you'll start connecting the dots. You'll eventually change everything, or some parts you'll keep some parts, you'll change the others, and you'll like, but the movement, you need to create movement. Like as soon as you start moving, ideas will flow better, perspective will change, you'll network will you'll enlarge your network. So create movement and start doing it ASAP. Like that's the for the guys that are still thinking about putting it out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's good advice. And I think the more manual, less scalable way that you started enabled you to do those things, right? Enabled you to validate the problem, but it also enabled you to build a network and an audience and all of those things that you could then leverage with a lot more knowledge when it then came to building the tech.
Yeah, and with a lot of property regarding like even team wise when I hire for some roles, because that's the beauty in us bootstrapping and in taking like the hard road and like slower growth and slower steps is like then you talk about everything in your company with a lot of property. I mean, with a lot of how it's done, what it takes, and then you have it's much easier to position yourself, to ask for KPIs, to define what's needed, even to have the hard talks, because you're talking from a different angle and a different perspective. And I find it very valuable in my journey. And I think when you have a lot of capital up front and huge, a lot of money, like from the early days, you skip a lot of important steps as a founder or as a founding team. You obviously you have the opportunity to test a lot of things faster. But when you have a bigger team, there are a lot of subjects that it's harder for you to get to have the same perspectives as you would have if you were there, like since forming that team, helping to build that team, and on the daily journey of the process.
Yeah, like you say, I think there's pros and cons, but if you do get that investment and do skip those steps, then you don't have the personal knowledge and experience that you probably do need in order to best help educate those team members, right? Because they're all trying to figure it out at the same time as you are, and then there's a lot more complexity, isn't there, added to the mix if you go down that route.
Exactly, and add to that a huge pressure because everything needs to be accelerated, 10x, 100x, because people had given you a lot of money, and there's always this pressure. So time frame gets shortened, and everybody gets in it's I would say a different the different scale of time to measure stuff and to measure results, because money is put in, you put in a lot of money, you need to measure everything faster, and with the pros and cons that it has. But then I think one of the major problems is that a lot of times you haven't reached the level of maturity to be spending as so much money. So you would benefit from a few more some more time, to be able to spend so much money a lot of time. So there's this, but I think it will always obviously depend also on the investment thesis, on the VCs that are with you on the journey, etc. I don't have that, so I don't speak in firsthand, because I never had this experience of going with a VC entering. So we didn't get external funding. We decided on this path. So luckily I had the chance, because it's very expensive, of course, to develop a platform like this. But I was fortunate enough to create a whole a different line of business, very profitable business, which has a lot of synergies to this one. It's a different business, but it's in the same market, so it benefits from good synergies, and it gives us a lot of flexibility on decision making. So we can still decide on every step of the journey and at our own pace.
Yeah, I can see how that businesses then supporting the other businesses, supporting not just financially, but in terms of network, lessons learned, and everything else. And I think them giving you that space to actually work out what does work, what doesn't work, what's the best way to address different things in the business. I think that time element can often be missed sometimes when people are kind of rushing to the end point in the journey, but actually they do need to sometimes have a bit more patience and be willing to actually, especially with a marketplace type of product, I think, but be willing to invest some time in understanding both parties involved in that marketplace, the different needs, the different interactions that they have. So yeah, I can see how that time factor has actually played into your favor and allowed you to build things the way you have done.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, Matt. And on the landlord side of the marketplace, we are actually we are able to test everything through it's different companies, but we know exactly, because we have a company only focused on this midterm accommodation market. So we know exactly the needs, and I think we use it as an advantage because we know it from the inside. We know exactly what a landlord, like a property management with a property manager with 500 units or with 1,000 units needs as a product to help him save time and to help getting tenants faster. So we capitalize a lot on this. We leverage a lot this strength that we have of having these efforts combined and developing the product as we feel and as we can test firsthand on this side. So that's why I was also mentioning the synergies.
There's a lot to be said for being specific as well and working at what that niche is that you serve. So it's not just any kind of rental, it's not just remote viewings of rental, but it is that specific midterm rental market that you've chosen. And because you have made that a conscious decision, that's got to have a massive impact in terms of the decisions that you make, the way that you position the product and everything else.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think it's been super interesting hearing about that Inlife journey from something not scalable to then the supporting business to then developing a more scalable platform. So, appreciate the insights. I think anyone listening to this, especially if they are in or considering a marketplace type business, will find this really, really interesting. So thank you for sharing that. And I certainly wish you the best of luck in terms of improving those features, taking that up a level, and then expanding to other cities as well. And look forward to seeing Inlife in this country as well.
Matt, it was a pleasure coming here to Inside the Scale Up, and wish you the best also for you guys, and I'll keep you updated.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Inside the Scale Up. Remember, for the show notes and in-depth resources from today's guest, you can find these on the website insidethescaleup.com. You can also leave feedback on today's episode, as well as suggest guests and companies you'd like to hear from. Thank you for listening.